Yeah, and it's not even that particularly Christ-like. It's just a horse sucking a tit.
All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to episode 33. It's so many episodes, I'm starting to lose count of the Screenplay Archaeology podcast. I'm your host, KiramidHead, and joining me from scenic UK
is Deusdaecon back again.
Full of rain and mist.
A lot of it, actually.
Yeah, we've been getting rain here, too. So today we're doing our first requested episode. And yes, even though this is going to get out on the last day of December because this took a while to get together, this counts as a Christmas episode because there's snow in it. So fuck you, Star Wars. So yeah, as requested by Star Clark, we are covering the first draft of Ridley Scott's Legend, as it's titled Legend of Darkness.
Yeah.
Now, this basic synopsis of this script is the same as the movie, more or less. You got the Princess Lily, the wild man, Jack, who might be a spirit but might not be, or might be a dude with a high thetan count. They have a very shallow romance, and then, bad shit happens, and a big bad guy, in this case, he's called the Baron Coeur de Noir, has a unicorn killed, which then sends the world into semi-permanent darkness. And he also ends up kidnapping Lily, who in this script starts changing into a weird cat person because furries.
Yeah.
And then Jack basically has to lead an army of fairies to go and rescue her and kill the bad guy.
Yeah, well, that's one thing as well, is that the army makes a lot more sense than just these weird goblin people that are not that competent at all.
Who just randomly show up. But I will say this about the film, at least you could tell the characters apart. Whereas here it's just like it's Jack, Gump, an army, and then occasionally they pull a guy out and call him by name.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, of course, since this is a Ridley Scott project, we're going to talk about the film and then dig at Ridley Scott a little bit because it's so much fun.
And very easy.
And very, very easy because the guy's a nut.
Yeah.
He's actually more nuts than James Cameron at this point.
Yeah, it's a very close race, though.
It's very close, because at least James Cameron is admitting that 4 Avatar sequels might not work.
Yeah.
But whereas Ridley just wants to keep going with his adventures of David, the daddy issue robot.
Yeah, and then says, the problem with the Alien series is the alien!
And I'm convinced, I'm sad to say, I think The Martian might have been a fluke.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that was a complete fluke.
And All the Money in the World is getting strong reviews, so maybe that's going to be a good movie.
Maybe, but let's be honest, on the scales of good to bad, it's not looking great.
Yeah, because the last 7 years have been Robin Hood. Really boring.
Yeah.
Prometheus, okay.
Debatable.
I find Prometheus to be okay. It's gotten worse in light of Covenant, because Covenant made that movie pointless.
Yes.
Alien 3 did, basically.
Yeah.
Counselor, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Exodus, also one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And a film that could have been really good if handled right, but it just wasn't.
No.
And in The Martian, holy crap, it's great, he's back. And then Covenant. All the tiny bit of goodwill I had for Prometheus, you just pissed it down the drain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really not a good run. And the worst part is that he then takes credit for things that are great that he has nothing to do with, like Blade Runner.
Yeah, like he was involved in developing the story for Blade Runner, but he went on in an interview recently, he's like, yeah, 2049, that script's almost all me. And I'm like, bullshit. Really, if it was about you, it would have changed a million more times.
And it would have taken like 3 years to make.
And it wouldn't have felt like a Blade Runner movie either. Which, guys, if you didn't go see Blade Runner, 2049, it's coming out on Blu-ray next month. Go buy it, you bastards, because no one went to go see that movie.
Yeah, I will be buying it.
whether or not you have mixed feelings on Jared Leto, it's worth watching.
Yes,
But,
and I love the fact that we went straight to bashing on Ridley Scott.
Yeah, well, I want to get that out of the way early.
So, I mean, when you think about it, he's not done a lot, and I think a lot of what he did at the very beginning is what made him popular.
Yeah, it was Alien and Blade Runner.
Yeah, because everything after that was kind of middle of the road and not particularly interesting.
And I've not seen his first movie, The Duelists.
I think I'm familiar with that one, but I have not seen it.
But no,
yes.
He's this interesting guy to follow because he definitely knows how to like set up a shot, and he knows how to technically make a film.
Yes.
But when he gets involved in developing the story, it just turns into a mess because he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah, and he doesn't know where to stop. But hey, he makes one hell of a bread commercial.
I've not seen that commercial. You've told me. I've never seen any of his commercials. I just know he likes to talk about having made 3,000 TV commercials.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that covers him pretty much.
Hmm.
And he got the idea for Legend, like, after The Duelists, actually, because he was going to do a Tristan and Isolde movie.
Oh, really?
And that fell through. And he eventually ended up producing the movie that they did make.
The actual Tristan and Isolde film?
Yeah, the James Franco.
Oh, wow, I did not know. The only thing I remember about the Tristan and Isolde film is that they used an Evanescence song for the trailer.
Oh.
And it's like the most tonally weird thing you've ever seen in your life.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, because the film is like so nothing like that.
But it was like that fell through because of financing, and he developed the idea of doing a fairy tale, and that didn't actually. And he was actually working on the script with I believe they pronounce his name Hatzberg in the documentary, but who was a novelist and had done some unproduced screenplays. The main thing I know that he did was he wrote a book called Falling Angel, which got adapted into Angel Heart with Mickey Rourke.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I know the main difference between the book and the film was that in the book it stays in New York, but the film he goes to New Orleans.
Right.
Partway through.
Right, okay.
But there was still voodoo stuff. It was just in New York. But that was a good movie. And so basically, Ridley Scott asked him if he'd like to write a fairy tale, and he had been writing little short stories that were fairy tales just to keep in the habit of writing when he was doing it. And so they got together and collaborated on this, and Scott gave him the vague concept of a villain who was connected to darkness, and he was after the fastest steed on the earth, the unicorn. And that became Legend, eventually. And then the script we're going to talk about was the first draft that got turned in, which is the big epic. So the film itself, I think it's an okay watch.
It's
okay.
Well, first of all, it depends on which version you watch, because I think that's very important. In my opinion, the director's cut is better from what I've seen.
I've seen both, and honestly, neither of them made enough of an impression on me for me to really go, yeah, this one's better. Yeah,
well, I would say, if nothing but the soundtrack is better than the director's cut. I do prefer the Goldsmith, if I'm honest, because Tangerine Dream is just a bit weird.
Tangerine Dream never did it for you.
No. It was just a bit... It just didn't really work, because you've got all this kind of classic fairy tale stuff, and then you've got Tangerine Dream in the background. It's like...
I would say they synchronized it pretty well, considering it was a rush, because it was rescored and re-edited because they did a test screening in somewhere in California, and apparently there was a couple of potheads in the audience snickering at the film. And Scott lost his confidence.
Yeah, he took the advice of two potheads. Why?
Well, that reminds me of when David Koepp went to write Jurassic Park 2. He had like a little thing. He had a letter from a 9-year-old kid saying, "Get to the dinosaurs faster." And he took that serious advice, but which doesn't explain why that movie is so boring or so preachy.
Yeah, with the multiple versions as well, I think again it's very much a staple of Ridley Scott.
Yeah, he always has multiple.
He can't not make one film. It has to be 3 or 4 different versions.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for all the money in the world to have a special Kevin Spacey cut on Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly. It's bizarre how he keeps doing this. And Blade Runner obviously is the biggest culprit of this.
Oh, it has 5 cuts, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Which is funny because 2049 isn't going to have another cut.
Which in a way is kind of a shame, but that's regardless.
Oh, it doesn't need another cut.
No. But yeah, I think from when it was filmed to when it was released was like 3 years for this, right?
Yeah, because they had to develop the concept, and they had problems with filming it because like the set burned down.
Yeah, and I think there was stuff with like Tom Cruise who had to stop filming the first few times
because his father died.
That's right. So yeah, there was a lot of problems with it, and it just, for some reason, problems seem to follow Ridley Scott.
And I think it turned out better than it reasonably should have with all those.
Oh yeah. I reckon Legend is. I mean, there is no arguing that it is a cult classic. It is, but in some ways, it kind of doesn't deserve to be.
It's interesting.
I think it's a weird situation.
I think it's decently watchable, but it is a very visually stunning film.
Mm.
And it does do a successful job of kind of creating this world, but my one problem with the visuals is that whenever the fairies show up, there's like friggin' bubbles floating around.
Yeah, it does become a weird music video.
Did he have like his kids standing out of frame?
Yeah, it's weird. And everything goes a bit soft focus and weird and sparkly. And
the music video idea isn't helped by the fact that in the American theatrical cut, there's not one but 2 pop songs at the...
God. Yeah, I avoided all the pop songs.
Honestly, they're not that bad. I've heard worse.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's weird about it is that, okay, Tim Curry is a great bad guy in it.
Mm.
Just the best part of the movie by far is darkness.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the makeup alone is incredible.
But, Tom Cruise is honestly creepier than he is.
Yeah.
Because he's playing it in this weird way where he's constantly, really leaning on the crazy eyes and psycho smile.
Yeah, like I said before we started recording, it's like you are recovering from a head wound and he's the nurse to help you back to health. It's that kind of weird, disjointed, I don't know what's going on.
But it's I don't know what exactly maybe he didn't know what the take on the character was supposed to be.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
Because it's not really explained what he is. He's just this weird guy who lives in the woods and wears a skirt.
Yeah.
And he trades it in for a bronze skirt partway through the movie.
Which was made of bottle caps, apparently.
It looked, heck, the armor in Monty Python the Holy Grail was made from knit wool.
Yeah.
But no, it's I just don't understand. And I find the love story is just kind of meh.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very weak love story because it's very it's kind of that Disney-esque thing, kiss the princess and you get to marry her. It doesn't matter if you have no, likes, dislikes, and personality similarities.
And considering how much time they spend staring into each other's eyes in the woods,
yeah,
it's tempting to compare it to a certain series.
Oh God, yes, I think everyone knows what we're talking about. We're not going to go there.
And there's certain scenes in this script which get kind of close to a different series.
Oh God, yes.
Oh yes, you'll know exactly what it is when we get to that because it gets it gets really furry-ish.
Yeah, and I was never convinced about the relationship in the film, let alone the script.
Yeah, she had more chemistry with Tim Curry.
Yeah, she did. They honestly had more dialogue and more interesting dialogue.
I'm like, you know what? Darkness doesn't seem like such a bad dude.
No, he just wants the ability to exist. He can't live in sunlight, so he wants to get rid of sunlight. That's not really that bad.
I mean, granted, he does have a torture chamber.
Yeah, he has a torture chamber, and he has minions that eat human flesh.
Yes, and he's implied to be the son of Satan.
Okay, when you think about it, on pros and cons, maybe he is the best guy. I could see that too.
And I like I said off mic, I was like, you know what? I seem to think about my liking of Tom Cruise performances seems to be inversely proportional to the length of his hair.
Yeah.
With very few exceptions, and his hair constantly flopping around in this is just ridiculous. He spends half this movie posed in a crouch.
Yeah, he does have this weird kind of. It's almost like Wolverine,
In Origin.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, and he's constantly doing for lack of a better phrase, the squat toilet pose.
Yeah, and he'll squat and then turn his head real quickly, and his hair will flop around.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he does fairly well in the action scenes, and he always has. Like when he's sword fighting darkness at the end, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and I actually love the way he just, he shouts and jumps in and attacks. That whole bit it was actually quite pulse pounding, if I want to use the really cliched movie type word.
Yeah, now they do slightly ruin darkness a little bit in that scene because they decide to show him go running at Jack in slow motion with his horns bouncing up and down.
Yeah.
I love that bit where he's clinging to the walls of his portal to the void.
Yeah.
You think you have defeated me, I'm part of you.
A lot of that was great.
Granted, it's nonsense, but Curry makes the nonsense work.
And I think, sorry.
But it's a sit-throughable film, I think, is the idea. It's not the worst of Ridley Scott. It's towards the middle.
Yeah, it's you can put it on and watch it and, feel like you haven't wasted your time.
It's good background.
Yeah. And, you basically you put it on and then wait for Tim Curry to appear and then you watch it and then you can go back to doing whatever you were doing.
Yeah, and then also the Robert Picardo cameo.
Oh, yeah.
Meg Mucklebones, the Swamp Hag.
That is a cool moment because the effects are fantastic, which again...
And the makeup effects are fantastic throughout. It's a Rob Bottin.
Absolutely. Rob Bottin, the guy who did The Thing, so obviously it's going to be fantastic.
The guy who did The Thing so well that he was exhausted. He almost died of exhaustion.
Yes.
I can only imagine what must have been making this.
Yeah, well, I think the effects were more arduous on the actors than... Because once you've got, all the aesthetics, it's just the applying and the taking them off. With Tim Curry getting so frustrated, he literally pulled off layers of skin because he was so fed up with the makeup.
He had such a bad time with the makeup that he almost didn't do it.
Yeah, and that's why at the beginning you barely see darkness.
Well, I actually like the barely seeing. I like the build-up.
Oh, yeah. It actually works a lot better when we don't see him at all.
Well, that's one of the bad things about the American theatrical cut is that bit where he's sitting in the chair at the beginning.
Yeah.
You actually see him.
Oh, it was much better.
And for some reason, he's got weird glowing yellow eyes and fingernails.
Yeah, no.
And you can tell that was cut in later because it'll switch and he's in a different room. From the shot from behind, it's a different room and his fingernails aren't yellow.
Right. Yeah. The version I saw was much better because I think you only see him as the clawed fingers pointing.
Yeah, and he's wrapped up.
Yeah, it's much more, gives it a lot more gravitas.
Which reminds me of the Ridley Scott I Am Legend where the creatures are wrapped up.
Yes.
And then they're slowly revealed over the course of the story. Which, that was a Ridley Scott film that should have gotten made, damn it. But yeah, all that stuff, visually, the makeup and stuff is all great. It's just kind of a weak story, which you can kind of see how that happened from looking at this script, because this is a big, long, eventful, spectacle script.
Yeah.
That got really scaled back. Now, granted, I think the scaling back actually worked in the movie's favor, because you have a core group of elves and whatnot that are recognizable.
Yeah, you can actually remember the different characters in the film, whereas in the script, they're just names.
Yeah, they're just names. And I do know that the big differences between the director's cut and the theatrical cut is that most of the songs are cut out.
Yeah.
You see darkness at the beginning, and instead of them separating at the end, they run off into the sunrise together.
Which version was that again? Sorry?
In the theatrical cut, Jack and Lily, they walk off together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then there's the last little shot of darkness laughing, implying that evil still exists.
Yeah, there's none of that in the director's cut.
And the Mucklebone scene is shorter.
Yeah, which is a shame, actually, because the director's cut version is actually interesting.
Yeah, it's there's some dialogue, and then Jack just chops her head off and goes, "Huh, I did it."
Yeah, which is anticlimactic.
I was in an action scene which didn't involve tons of slow motion and doves.
Yeah. But I actually did like the stuff with Mucklebones, where she's entranced by her own reflection and all this.
Well, it's a very mythical scene.
Yeah, exactly. It was very, I think Perseus, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little Perseus.
Yeah.
Well, he had the mirror shield, which he looked into to avoid looking at Medusa.
Exactly, it was very reminiscent of that, which I thought was quite nice. It was a reference to mythology in a better way than this script does.
Yeah, this script just throws random mythological elements.
Yeah,
To the point where I don't even know where this is supposed to take place.
it's all over the place. It takes place in weird.
They mentioned Mercia being to the east, so I guess it takes place in Wales.
Rock on. I do believe I live next to the big castle made of blood and sorrow.
Snowdon.
Yes.
Where they wanted to spill Merlin's blood to build the tower. They found the dragons under the foundations.
Yeah.
And that's where the Welsh Red.
Of course.
Yeah, see, I know my legend. I know my Arthurian shit.
Yeah.
So, my one thing is that, like, I do kind of like the idea of the director's cut having the more bittersweet ending where they realize they're from two different worlds.
Mm.
But it still plays it really sappy, so I don't really mind the theatrical cut ending that much.
No, it's a bit, like you said, pretty much exactly like that.
Although the director's cut has the weird implication that it was all a dream.
Yeah, that was really weird because they both played it like it could possibly be a dream, but there was nothing else apart from that.
It doesn't help that we clearly saw darkness and goblins.
Exactly. So it was all kind of confusing.
That almost works better in this script when she mentions a dream.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you sure it was a wonderful dream and not a nightmare of being tortured and raped?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So, you want to just dive into the script?
Yep, might as well.
So, yeah, final thoughts on Legend, the movie. I'd say it's worth watching once.
Mm.
And I'd say it's worth watching both cuts just to get the different feels of it. Because the Tangerine Dream is kind of hypnotic, and I do like that score, even if I swear they lifted music from Excalibur.
Although, I still maintain that the Gump is the creepiest character in there.
Oh, yeah, I just have to say Gump. His name is Gump, and he lives in the forest. Make of that what you will.
Yeah.
My name is Honeythorn Gump. People call me Honeythorn Gump.
But yeah, I mean, the character in the film is needlessly creepy in a weird way.
It's a little kid.
Yeah, well, he kind of reminds me of the main kid in Children of the Corn.
Yeah, it was just Isaac.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does a little bit. Yeah.
So that's what kind of freaks me out about it.
That's a funny story. His voice got dubbed over with the actors who played Blix because there was an executive who thought he sounded like a Nazi. Because his German accent, he said, "You can't have a Nazi fairy."
I mean,
but
I don't know, really.
I should mention there's a lot of weird little things that don't really add up in the movie, like the whole thing about Una, the fairy, not wanting Gump to know that she can change size.
Yeah, even though it really doesn't matter.
And the fact that you got a 12-year-old girl clearly, like, lusting after Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that was weird.
Which gets even weirder in the script.
Mm.
And that weird elf guy who's wearing an orc helmet.
Oh, yeah! He's part of the bad guy's army. He helps kill a unicorn, and then they just say, "You can join us. We're friends now."
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, it's a long story, and we don't have."
Yeah, he yada yadas us.
He's like Maz Kanata in Force Awakens, going like, "That's a long story where I got this lightsaber from, and we don't have time."
No, so yeah, that's not really. It's a bit weird how they just accept him. Well, they don't really accept him. There's a bit of back and forth, but still, he is one of the reasons why they are in that ship. Yeah,
he gets dragged off and dumped in a tankard of ale.
Mm.
And then he helps them kill darkness with the mirror trick from the mummy.
Yeah.
So, okay, driving into this script, okay, the title is Legend of Darkness.
Which makes less sense because the bad guy's not called Darkness.
But he does plunge the world into darkness, but he doesn't seem to really care.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it's not really that important.
Also, Hotsburg decided he had to specify that this was a screenplay.
Oh, yeah. It's screenplay in brackets. I thought it was a novel.
And it's not dated because, fuck the people trying to figure out the dates.
But at least it has Beverly Hills, California, 90210.
It does. The Uffland Agency.
Yeah.
North Cannon Drive. No, that means the script is canon. Okay. Also, he paginates his script with his last name.
Yeah, he wants to get his name on there as much as possible.
I've only ever seen that done on college essays.
Weird.
And one thing I like about this is I like how it begins with a tapestry showing the different characters from the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche now to do that kind of thing, but it kind of worked because it's supposed to be such a classic fairy tale idea, isn't it?
It's such an archetypal idea, and it specifies here that Jack is a green man clad only in leaves and vines.
Yeah.
So that means it is hanging out for all to see.
Lovely.
He's not wearing a skirt.
No, he's doing the whole Adam and Eve shit.
And they're watching these stately pair of unicorns. Great. But I like it because it establishes this as a legend.
Yes.
It's like this is a legend that's been retold and illustrated. Now, here, right, it starts, right, and we got this is the first difference from the movie. We don't meet the bad guy yet. We see the unicorns browsing in a forest glade, and then we see, not far away, there's a castle, and there's a group of hunters leaving the castle, and also the Princess Lily leaves. So we see what she's a princess of.
Yeah.
And it's all established that she's the daughter of King Godwin, and she's the princess of this castle, so we actually know what she is a princess of. So that's
kind
nice
of.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least we have more than, oh, I'm a peasant and you're a princess. You gotta behave like a princess.
Yeah.
Well, actually, in the American theatrical cut, they just refer to her as a lady.
Oh, really? Yeah, because that's even less important. That just means you own land.
Oh, also in the American cut, she looks up at the clock and she gets like a premonition.
Oh, yeah, I saw that bit. Yeah, it's where everything turns frosty for some reason.
She's a princess of the distant castle, and she goes out into the woods to meet Jacko the green man, the wild man who lives in the woods.
Mm.
He was tanned berry brown, although I've never seen brown berries.
No.
And his tangled locks, he has a wreath of flowers as opposed to perfectly groomed tonker.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of him being this sort of legendary figure. At least it kind of specifies what he's supposed to be.
I mean, yeah, in the film, I always assumed that he was some kind of, woodland spirit. But again, he is referred to as a mortal.
He's a Kokiri.
Yeah, it's weird.
He's the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
And so they're hanging out in the woods, and they have a thing going on. I don't know how these two met.
No.
Like, what circuit? Did she just wander out into the woods someday, and like this bearded wild man came out and said, hey?
Clearly they met at the same function where Marty met Doc. Because there are a lot of these kind of relationships that you just don't know how they start.
Basically what happens is that they're hanging out in the woods.
Mm.
She drops her handkerchief, and he decides he's going to take her out to see the unicorns.
Yes.
And there's like the hunting party is out and about, and it's her father and his guest, the Baron Coeur de Noir.
Mm.
Black, which is a really needlessly French and fancy way to say Blackheart.
Yeah, it's so needless.
He's basically the equivalent of Darkness who goes about in the mask as hurt by sunlight. Now, he's not exactly Darkness. He's a very different character.
I don't think... Because he's referred to as an ogre, isn't he?
Yeah, people say he's an ogre, but he's not really an ogre.
No.
He's like a weird wolf person who then transforms.
I think he starts out like this weird, like you said, and then he becomes more like Darkness later on, doesn't he?
As it goes on. And so Jack even points out the silliness of Blackheart.
Yeah.
And so they go into the woods, he shows her the unicorns.
Mm.
There's this weird thing about a snake poisoning a lake.
Yeah, a snake, a viper has poisoned the lake, which I don't know why that makes sense. And then the unicorns use their horn to make the water drinkable again. It's basically just to establish the power of the unicorns, I guess.
And so she goes to take him to. He goes to take her to the unicorns. It's established that the hunting party is following them and using her as bait.
Mm. Which, again, is kind of like the film, but not.
Yeah, instead the film's just like Darkness just goes, hey, follow Innocence, and they find her, even though she's not so innocent. But so they follow the daughter, they find the daughter's handkerchief and use it as to get the scent.
Yes.
So they follow her, and like, okay, he shows her the unicorn, and then decides he's going to go back for the handkerchief and leaves them alone.
And then it gets a bit weird.
Also, I should mention, I didn't know what the hell they were referring to when they said alicorn.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently that's the horn of a unicorn, is an alicorn.
Yeah.
I would never have known that. So, okay, he goes back to get the handkerchief, and then, I shit you not, 10 pages in,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to read this out. Because it is just so weird. Okay, angle, close on Lily and the unicorn. The girl strokes the unicorn's head, running her hand lovingly down the spiraling horn. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
The animal seems totally in her power. He closes his eyes and nuzzles her bodice. Almost without thinking, Princess Lily unbuttons the top of her gown, exposing her pale breast. She's 15, by the way.
As you do.
The entranced unicorn immediately begins to suckle like a newborn creature. Lily hugs the white head to her bosom, consumed by ecstasy and bliss.
I mean, that's just creepy on so many levels, because one, there's no way she would actually be producing milk, so she's literally just having a horse suck on her tits.
It is just the weirdest thing. This is 10 pages in.
And again, I love the fact that it says, almost without thinking. No shit, because clearly no thought was involved.
It's just the weirdest thing. It's like, I'm 10 pages in, and the unicorns are sucking tits. Can you imagine Ridley Scott sitting down to this thing of smoking a cigar and reading this scene?
I can see where he left it out.
Yes.
I just realized that, pretty much Jack gets less action than the unicorn.
That is true. He gets the least amount of action of any character in the script who interacts with her.
Wow.
Oh, just you guys wait.
Yeah.
And then, and so then the hunting party gets there. And okay, I have to read this part because this is the really weird bit.
Mm.
It's already really weird, but this just puts a fine point on it.
Mm.
Through a fringe of leaves, the Baron sees the princess nursing the reclining unicorn, a tableau at once reminiscent of the Madonna and the infant Jesus.
No, it's not like that.
So is the unicorn Jesus?
Maybe? I mean, that's weird.
Bizarre and out-of-place Christ imagery.
Yeah, and it's not even that particularly Christ-like. It's just a horse sucking a tit, you know?
I don't even know how you would shoot that.
I can see why they didn't.
I mean, is Rob Bottin going to have to make special unicorn lips?
And let's be honest, when horses bite, it's not gentle.
It hurts.
They can take a finger off.
We're going to spend more time talking about this scene than we are going to be about this whole other thing.
Yeah. It deserves to be mentioned so much because it's just fucking weird.
And it's 10 pages in.
I know. That's like the first thing that happens pretty much.
Because not much happens in that first 10 pages. They just wander through the damn woods.
Yeah.
But okay, so the Baron puts a special poisoned crossbow bolt into his crossbow and then shoots the unicorn, and that weakens it, and he chases it down and eventually chops its horn off.
Well, he actually decapitates it.
Yeah, he decapitates it too, but then snaps off the horn.
Yeah, which is actually more gruesome than in the film where they literally just cut off the horn.
And that somehow kills
it. Yeah, I don't get that.
And it all somehow means that Jack is a replicant. Damn you,
yeah. That is a good point, that. Maybe it's the same unicorn from Blade Runner.
Lily leaps to her feet, blood spattered and horrified. You're milk spattered. And her father just rides by not giving a shit.
Yeah, first he doesn't give a shit about her and the horse getting it on, and then he just leaves her spattered in blood and to kill the unicorn, which we don't even know why he's doing this, just because he's mates with Blackheart.
Yeah, and honestly, Blackheart doesn't even have a reason to be doing it. He's just doing it to be a dick.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I mean,
just because he can.
Apparently, there's like some value to unicorn blood, and he makes a sword out of the horn.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a really reason to do it, and so Lily's all traumatized. Jack, cleans her off and stuff.
And there's a little bit about how, unicorn blood is valuable.
Yeah. And so she eventually gets better, and they just start chatting again.
Yeah, and that was another thing as well. While the horse is being ran down and killed, they're just in the woods, all fine, no problems. Let's have some fun.
And here's the scene that's really sort of... Also, by the way, there's actually, other locations besides a bunch of fucking trees in this thing. There's a river where the unicorn gets killed. But no, they're, chatting, and she says something about bluebells, which is important later. And this is a scene that's actually really like the movie, where she talks about how, she'll marry anyone who fetches a ring out of this pond.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly... that entire scene is pretty much exactly like the film.
Now, it's not thrown off a cliff, and it's not a ridiculous composite shot.
No.
He doesn't jump, and I'm sure Tom Cruise really did that jump. Because he's a crazy man.
Yeah, well, actually, I thought it was a stunt double. Because something to do with the set was... It didn't look right, so they had Ridley Scott's daughter play Lily, because she was smaller, and they had a stunt double.
It's like what he did with the space jockey in Alien.
Yeah, exactly the same thing, yeah.
All right, so it's to keep the scale, and so Tom Cruise couldn't be Crazy Man yet.
Exactly.
But so okay, while this is going on, Jack dives down in the pond to find it. Even though he's right next to it, he doesn't manage to grab it.
Yeah.
And while he's down there, the horn gets chopped off, and everything freezes up.
Yeah, and it's just as abrupt as in the film as well.
Yes. Now, I like that the Baron does it himself in this, because him killing the Baron himself seems a little more evil than just, hey, you Keith Richards goblin.
Oh, yeah.
Go out. He doesn't even tell them what a unicorn is. He just says, oh, it'll have a horn. So
he just says, look for a creature with a horn. Thanks for narrowing it down.
So good thing they didn't kill a narwhal by mistake.
Yeah. That would have made it a bit more of an interesting film.
That would have been pretty funny. He's like, at last, my victory. And he looks out the window. Oh, shit. And he doesn't tell them to kill both either, and then he's pissed when they don't.
Yeah, they just bring the other one back.
But no, Jack manages to break through the ice because that high thetan count, I guess.
Yeah, he just punches through it.
And Lily is gone, and so he sets up a fire. And she's watching from a nearby tree. Now, this is really different from the movie, because in the movie, she runs off out of fear, and she finds out that it was because of the unicorn. Because this doesn't have the whole thing where it's like, oh, you shouldn't have touched the unicorn in it, which doesn't make any sense, because the legend of the unicorns is that the virgin can touch the unicorn. And so she overhears, it was her that allowed the shot to get off, and so she goes out and tries to make it right. And that's what gets her kidnapped, which I actually like that about the character, that she has an arc.
Yeah, she actually wants to actually do something, and she's not just a damsel in distress.
And she actually ensures the victory.
Yeah, exactly.
She's actually a pretty good character in the movie, but here, she starts turning into a cat person.
I love how abrupt that is as well.
I don't really know why.
I know, because it's just got nothing to do with anything. She didn't do the killing. She didn't do anything wrong. It's just for some reason she's becoming a cat person.
I guess you're not supposed to let the unicorn suck your tit.
Yeah, that's clearly the only thing we can ascertain from this.
That's that's Hannibal Lecter's job.
Yes.
Oh, people are not going to get that joke.
No. They're going to be like, what? What the hell are you talking about?
But she starts to, and it's implied later on that the Baron cursed her, but he doesn't really confirm that.
No, he confirms that it's a curse, but not where it comes from.
Yeah, it's really, I don't know why she's turning, this seems the opposite of freezing over.
Yeah.
Maybe she's gone past the threshold and she's evolving to adapt to her situation.
Yeah.
Damn it, Tom Paris.
She's gone to warp 10.
So yeah, she's turning into a cat person, and Jack is in the fire, and he's sleeping, and he hears a cackling from the woods.
And that's when Gump appears.
Yes, Gump appears. Honeythorn Gump, who lives... His name is Gump. Like I said, his name is Gump, and he lives in the woods. He lives in the forest.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell whether his face resembles a newborn babe or a wizened old man, so he's Benjamin Button.
Yeah. And again, that whole thing, you can tell they were trying to do that with... Because he's incredibly creepy in the film. But I don't know if that was deliberate or not, because he kind of has this, Rumpelstiltskin, I'm going to kill you if you can't tell me this riddle or whatever it was. So a lot of the time he's very antagonistic, and when Jack beats him in the film, he answers the riddle, and he literally goes mental.
Yeah, that part was cut out of the theatrical version too.
Yeah, he goes mental, and then after that he's like, okay, we can party now. It's all fine. And it's just weird. It's just really creepy and weird. Yeah, I never trusted the character.
And we basically get that scene, only it's specified here the reason he's dicking with Jack is because he fell asleep in a ring of toadstools.
Yeah, because that means something, apparently.
It's a fairy.
Okay. And then he actually forces him to dance. Was
that in the movie?
No.
I believe they filmed it, but it was like the last thing they filmed before the set burned down, because they show a shot of in the making of documentary, they show Gump playing a violin.
Yeah, he does have a violin, but he only has it when he says, "I will play your death music" or something. And it seems like it seems like something out of The Mask, where he would just pull something out of his trousers to make a point about his pun. It's that kind of thing. He just pulls out this violin and says, "I'm going to play your death music," and that's it.
And I should mention, they are surrounded by a bunch of animals.
Mm.
And so he makes Jack dance. They do the riddle, which is the bluebell thing.
It's not a very clever riddle. Gollum would be very disappointed.
What have I got in my pockets?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gump would have gotten eaten by Gollum.
Yeah. And yeah.
So the animals are dancing too. And damnation, codfish and cockles. Gammon and trotters, you've bested me, Jack.
Oh yeah, that's when he answers the that's right.
And I says, "You be our guest," and so they go to party.
Yeah.
So they go to this underground chamber, and they're partying, and then the animals all turn into fairies, which would have been a hugely expensive effect.
Oh yeah. But I mean, just the idea of Jack holding hands with a fox and dancing with it. I don't know how they could have done that at the time.
Nope, unless it was like a cartoon fox.
No, exactly. So you can see why they cut all this crap out.
And so they're partying, and they spend forever partying.
Yeah, literally forever. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean.
And then Una, the fairy, who doesn't have the whole secret thing in this.
No, she's just in her fairy form,
it's implied that she's small, but she's more like Tinkerbell.
Yes.
And she's like stroking his face and whispering like implied to be sexual shit in his ear.
Yeah.
And it's like, and Gump is basically going like, it's okay, Jack, you can get date raped.
Yeah.
And Jack seems so oblivious. What does she want from me? And he's like, fool question, lad. You'll find the answer at the bottom of your cup.
It is a bit odd the way they're like, just let go, just let us do whatever we want to.
And so they're just partying, and they're down here forever. And they apparently, they don't actually bring up the fact that the world is frozen over until they've been partying for a while.
They don't really give a shit.
And they don't actually put together the fact that it had anything to do with the unicorns.
No.
I mean, they don't know shit. And it was like, okay, so if you want to know, you have to go talk to Jenny Greenteeth, who is the swamp woman, the swamp hag who was Meg Mucklebones in the movie.
Yeah, so she actually has more of a point in the script.
Yeah, she's not just a random occurrence.
Random encounter.
Yeah, she doesn't just live in Darkseid's moat like Darkseid? No. Fucking Justice League.
Darkseid, oh my god. Now that's an interesting crossover.
So in Darkness' moat, and it's kind of like Stephen Summers wanted a creature from the Black Lagoon to be in Dracula's moat in Van Helsing.
Yeah.
So they leave, and they're wandering around, and I believe they actually find the dead unicorn.
Yeah, they actually come across it.
And they still don't.
No. They still have to be told by Greenteeth.
And we see Lily partway through her transformation.
Yeah, she's continuing to transform like it's ginger snaps.
And now you're just having me imagine Catherine Isabel as Lily.
Yeah, I mean, that would work.
Remake that, get friggin' Brendan Fletcher to play Jack.
No, it needs to be someone who dies.
But, so they're wandering around, they're like, oh, a dead unicorn, what's this? I hope this isn't Chris's blood. That really is like the dialogue here.
Yeah, it's not It's not the best dialogue, honestly.
And so they go to Jenny Greenteeth's bog hole, and they have Una turn into a child.
Because she eats children, apparently.
Because she's a pedophile, I guess.
It's, it's weird, because it is actually implied there is some kind of weird inappropriateness. I mean, apart from the eating of children. It does feel weird.
Apart from the rest of this script.
Yeah, and that is not an out of place comment if you actually read the way it's written, honestly.
And they bring they brought a hand mirror with them, and so he hands her the mirror and then like chats her up, saying she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen.
Mm.
And he basically gets her to give him the information they need. So she's the one who explains to them that the unicorn getting its horn chopped off was what caused the darkness and the ice.
Yeah.
So it's not just Edward Scissorhands shaving ice.
Yes, and then the weirdest part is that he actually leaves her to just exist. Doesn't kill her.
He leaves her the mirror and lets her. I thought that was interesting, kind of poetic.
Yeah, I mean, even though she is an eater of children, clearly evil.
It was interesting. It reminded me kind of the ending of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, where Tina Turner lets him go at the end.
Right.
I'm like the only person who likes that movie. But she also mentions that they'll need the fastest steed alive because Coeur de Noire's castle rests at the very edge of the earth. And she says he needs the sharpest sword and the golden armor of Achilles.
Mm.
Raises a big question.
First of all, that's not being poetic. She literally means...
Yes, the armor of Achilles.
The armor of Achilles.
Okay, so does this take place in the real world? Did Troy exist?
I know. I mean, Troy is mentioned as well.
And I'm like, Achilles, his armor didn't do jack shit for him.
No. He needed ankle armor.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
And she also says that he has to follow the raven in her flight, which that gets weird. And he even tells her not very precise directions. And she says, come sit beside me. I'll draw you a map. He goes like, no.
Yeah, no thanks.
I kind of like Jack in this script because he is kind of funny.
Mm.
He does kind of come across as like the one semi-normal guy in this situation.
Yeah, because he's surrounded by these whimsical and creepy creatures, and
he's kind of like Chell in Portal.
Yeah. Just dealing with it as it comes.
And she also tells him that Princess Lily is dead, or at least dead to you as far as you're concerned.
Mm.
So this explains why Lily's kidnapping is such a secondary thing, is because Jack assumes she's as good as dead.
Mm. Because in the film, she disappears, and then he doesn't really give a shit.
He just kind of fucks off for a while, and then she gets kidnapped. He's like, really? And it turns out, hey, the evil bad guy who lives like 10 minutes down the road was responsible for this.
Mm.
And that's one thing I do like about the script, is that it is an epic journey to get to the castle.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey, it's over the hill.
Yeah, it's just a next-door neighbor.
And that's one thing I like in the movie, is when they decide they need a champion, he's just like, Jack just goes, a champion? He's like, I guess you'll do.
Yeah.
It's not so much he's a destined hero as in he is
the best they can do.
And, of course, to get back on track, Gump, of course, knows exactly where the armor of Achilles is, and it's not at his funeral pyre way the hell off in Turkey.
No.
It's in the Lindfarn Mound, and it's an old barrow full of treasure, and apparently there's a dragon down there called the Lindfarn Worm.
Yeah, it's not Smaug.
Ooh, yeah. I would prefer Smaug.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Just you wait. So they're like, okay, you go down there and get it. So he goes down there, the dragon's asleep, and the breastplate of Achilles is in the dragon's closet, so he pulls it out, and the dragon wakes up.
Can I say this bit?
You want to read his first line of dialogue?
I want to read his first line of dialogue and the description he has beforehand.
Yes, read it.
Oh, because Jesus. It literally says, addressing Jack in English, he sounds like a sing-song Confucius, a grade B Fu Manchu.
Christopher Lee.
Oh, God. And he literally says, and this is phonetically how it's written. It says, what you do, boy, you be very sorry. I'm so sorry. Come here, interrupt my sleep. Fucking hell.
I didn't know.
Oh, I skipped over this bit because I was so cringy. But he does say, "What? Speak ye loud!" Oh my God, it's so wrong.
And it does specify that he is specifically like an Oriental dragon.
Yeah, he's like a Chinese style dragon.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of cool when I first read that. And then this accent comes out of his mouth.
Because this accent then implies he's wearing thick glasses and has buck teeth.
You come steely tlesu?
Oh, Christ.
And he keeps going on and on like this.
It's just weird and offensive.
Of course not. I know from here. I come from Cathay.
He really does sound like the kind of character who would just go, "Ay-ya," for no reason.
And so he goes, Cathay is a county far, far away to the east, beyond the rising sun. He goes, like, east of Mercia, so this takes place in Wales. And he keeps going on and on. This goes on for a while, too.
It really does, like 3 or 4 pages.
And then Jack Jack explains everything, and then the accent disappears, and he starts speaking normal English. So I guess what they're trying to do is they're supposed to make him seem non-threatening.
Yeah, he's supposed to, it's like some kind of weird disguise, almost.
But still.
Bit offensive.
I make your eye roll, Batty.
Yeah, it is that.
He is, it's like David Lopan, without the...
Yeah. It's just weird and bad.
It's just like,
It's so.
Can you imagine if they had actually filmed that?
It would have gone down in infamy.
Like, I think at the time, I don't think anyone would have noticed, but
nowadays,
people would look back on and go, "What the fuck?" It would be like those Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah, it would have been exactly like that.
Or like the Three Stooges where they're fighting escaped POWs.
Exactly, yeah.
That one's actually pretty fun, because they don't actually speak. They're completely silent.
Right.
But no, so Jack ends up fighting him. He grabs a random glowing sword.
Yeah, just one that's in the pile of treasure, isn't it?
And then he stabs the dragon with it and kills him. And Gump actually comes down and helps him.
Yeah, well, what I find quite brutal as well is that they don't just kill the dragon, they then eat him.
Yeah, they eat him. And then
because
all
apparently
the
his flesh is delicious.
And all the fairies come down and loot his treasure.
Yeah.
And
it's really brutal.
And there's this killing the forest. Killing the dragon takes a while, and then there's a long scene of them just playing around with the weapons.
Playing around with the weapons, and there's also, the stuff where they're just really enjoying the taste of him.
It's so weird. They killed Aku, the shapeshifter.
Yeah.
But okay, leaving the dragon aside, we get to see Lily in the frozen forest, and then the Baron comes upon her, and he's made the Alicorn into a sword. And he sees her, decides he likes to look at a Catwoman, and just snatches her off.
Yeah, and it's that arbitrary as well. There's
she's eating an animal too.
Yeah, she's gnawing on a rabbit.
So yeah, in this, he just seems to kill the unicorn and kidnap her, not because he has any reason to, but because he's a dick.
Yeah, and she gives him a lob on.
Yeah. I almost didn't recognize that term. But no, he is even more Ganondorf than Ganondorf.
Yeah.
He even changes form at the end.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not a giant squealing pig.
Sadly, that was...
Yeah.
But no, he carries her off, and then we get the ages and ages of them eating the damn dragon.
Yeah.
Playing around with the damn treasure. And then blah-de-blah-de-blah.
This is when actually the first mention of the character of Screwball.
Who's just nothing here.
He's just another goblin, fairy, whatever it is.
And then, alright, they're partying in the glade in the forest, and then the mare unicorn shows up and gives birth to a foal.
Yeah, that was really pointless.
Which is black.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, the fact that it gives birth makes a bit more sense, because in the film it's like she's the last and eventually she's going to die, and what do we do then? So at least this way, I guess, somehow it continues. Maybe they're asexual, I don't know.
Yeah, they parthenogenesis.
Well, they already have the voice of humpback whales in the film.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, they stole the sound effects from Star Trek 4.
Yeah, they can send the giant Coke can away.
Then, like, a bunch of wolves show up, and there's kind of a fight scene.
Oh yeah, the wolves that are just that just appear. Again, it is like a video game where there's like random encounters.
It's like I've been playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, and there's wolves in that game.
Yeah, exactly. It is just like that.
There was even a bear, and it ate me.
As you do. And the wolf fight scene actually goes on for quite a while.
It goes on for like a page.
Oh yeah, and then Screwball helps Jack, and then Jack is like, "I'm in your debt," but nothing ever comes of that.
Oh yeah, he does say that, and then Una's like, "We're a mortal girl, Jack. He thinks I'd be in love with you, and you are already."
Yeah, it's like you've already mentioned this. Stop going on about it.
You've already tried to date rape him.
Yeah,
and
this bit of dialogue is a bit weird for me because it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, he
says, "Then I'd kiss you without turning my garments inside out and sewing bells all over."
I think what he's saying is that if he would kiss her otherwise, he would be a fool.
Oh, I can't. Oh, because of the fool's outfit is covered in bells. Okay,
that's weirdly.
That's really weirdly, but okay, it makes more sense than I thought. That was weird.
Okay, and here's a weird bit where Jack sees the foal and says, "Praise be to God."
Yeah, the mentions of God a lot.
Like,
no, it doesn't. But he does that in the film as well.
I forgot about that.
And it's kind of out of place in the film as well.
And so we get them putting the army together, and this goes on a while.
Yeah, and it's quite a sizable army as well.
And Jack decides he actually rides the mare, which he named Sapphire, because as Jenny Greenteeth said, he needs the fastest mount.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure you can really trust a swamp hag.
No.
And so Gump is bitching about how he doesn't get to ride because even though he's second in command, he wants to ride the foal, but the foal's too small.
Plus, it's like newborn, for Christ's sake.
Don't ride the newborn.
But then again, it's weird that they are literally taking this thing into battle.
Yeah, it is strange that they're taking the unicorn into battle after the first one got him.
Yeah.
And they figure, how are they going to find the castle? So he says, we'll start from where the unicorn was killed and follow the trail. And so they get there, and here's a weird part. They get there, and there's a raven perched on the dead unicorn. Turns into a harpy complete with tits. Flies off and then turns back into a raven.
No reason whatsoever.
And Jack's like, yep, we gotta follow that because of what Jenny Greenteeth said. And so he goes, Una, fly up there and tail it.
And that's literally all they do.
Yes, they just follow Una, who's following the bird.
Which just adds an extra step. It's so needlessly complicated.
And then on the edge of the forest, they find that, the rest of the hunting party have been turned into trees.
Which is very Dante.
Yeah, it is. Wasn't it the greed circle? Or was that the suicides?
Yeah, the forest of suicides where people are turned into trees.
And so once again, instead of people freezing because it's a consequence of darkness trying to bring darkness on the world, the Baron just did this to be a dick.
Yeah, he just betrayed all the people who tried to help him and turned them into trees for no real reason. I guess he just doesn't want to share his big mansion.
How Judah Earl.
Yeah, and I think, and that was it as well. Jack wants to try and save them, but instead he swings his sword at one of them, which is a stupid idea to begin with.
Yes.
And then just causes one to bleed profusely.
Yeah, that was weird. And then he kills it. He's like, oh shit. And
does he kill it?
Yeah, I think it dies.
I thought they staunched the blood because there's this talk about how they go onto the battlefield and help wounded.
There's way too much shit in this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Jack's like, oh yeah, you don't just help them, do you? He was like, and Gump's like, hey, we take stuff from the dead. Who cares? He was like, oh, you're disgusting.
Yeah, it's pointless.
I'm like, dude, you live in the woods.
Yeah.
You probably sleep in your own shit. Shut up.
It's all a bit. There's a lot of this stuff where there's constant back and forth between Gump and Jack, but none of it ever goes anywhere.
Yeah, and this whole scene goes.
Yeah.
Every scene in this is 5 pages. And so, okay, they're following the Raven, and then they go, okay, they basically say it's getting dark out. So we're going to head to this place we know nearby, which is where the dwarves live, Og and Thurgus.
Yes, we're going to Moria.
Yeah, basically, or the Lonely Mountain.
Yeah.
I won't sing Far Under the Misty Mountains. So they go into the cave, and they get down there, and even though Gump apparently, is not on the best of terms with Og because, he owes him something?
Yeah, they have, banter where he fucked with him and he fucked with him. It's a lot of bollocks.
He sold him a jug of cow piss, claiming it was dragon's tears.
Yeah, okay. But again, it doesn't go anywhere. They still manage to get everything they want.
Yeah, and so they stay there, and they're talking to Thurgus and Og, and they mention that they know his sword, and they say that, oh, my grandfather made Mjolnir for Thor, and my uncle made Excalibur. Or maybe it was the other way around.
Yeah, so Thor exists, and so does King Arthur.
And then they say, oh, your sword is the Avatar, which is the sword that Sigurd used to slay Fafnir the dragon.
Yeah.
First off, I can just hear James Cameron's ears perking and going,
That's a good name for a movie.
And then also, it's so Sigurd exists in this universe as well.
Yeah.
The Volsunga Saga. Quite strange.
And that's when Troy is mentioned, because Achilles wore it before the gates of Troy, as Jack says.
It's what?
No.
Also, that wasn't the name of Sigurd's sword. It was never called the Avatar. This is Greek, where Achilles wore it before the gates of Troy. You're well-equipped, I'd say, legendary arm.
Yeah.
And so they're talking. It's okay. This is just weird. And so they talk for a while, and then Una tries to seduce him later that night again.
It's a similar scene when they're in the dungeon, and they try to get Una to help, and she's like, "Okay, I'll help if you give me a snog." But he's like, "No."
And it's even creepier because she's a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, and she turns into a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah, she turns into Lily. That relationship, by the way, is even weirder here because it's not really specified how old Jack is.
No.
But then she tries to seduce him, and she gets a little further with him than she does in the movie.
Yeah.
And Jack's like, no, not this date rape Lancelot shit. Because that's where Galahad came from, ladies and gentlemen. He got date raped by Elaine.
Yeah.
And so here it cuts away to the Baron's castle.
Oh God.
Lily has completely transformed into the cat girl, and she's begging the Baron to kill her because it would be a gift. And he was like, my generosity is not so large as that. He's standing over her with a whip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's
he's talking about he wants her love. He's like, I speak of love, and you think only of the lash.
It's very, yeah.
And he talks about how he likes her for him.
Yeah, he actually says things like, where is it? Yeah, he says, I like what I see, it pleases me, which is straight out of a weird romance novel.
It kind of makes sense considering when he takes his mask off.
Yeah.
And he's a savage face, half wolf, half goat with a pair of curling horns.
Mm.
And he mentions that he wears it as protection from sunlight. Because that actually makes a lot more sense than him just deciding to randomly monologue very loudly about how sunshine is my destroyer.
Yeah, so they overhear it.
Nice job fixing it, though.
But it is pretty much the same speech he gives as well. Like, sunlight is abhorrent to me. Sunshine is my destroyer.
I'm a creature of darkness. I require the shadow's solace in the black of night. But I like how he actually does make an interesting point about how she says, oh, you're like some vile toadstools. I prefer to think more like the sagacious owl. It's do you feed on mice and rats?
I prefer a plump capon.
I actually think he does have the dialogue here is actually fairly interesting.
Yeah, because it's an interesting back and forth of he's actually doing pretty well to convince her.
And he has a pretty interesting point of view.
Yeah.
And then she says she'd sooner die than be his bride. And so he strikes out at Lily with his whip and cracks the air close by her, and she leaps back.
Mm.
And so, yeah.
He does actually wrap it round her neck at some point as well.
Yeah. But she pulls open the shades, but he manages to get his armor and cape back on. And so he coils the lash around her neck and pulls her off balance. And then he starts beating her again.
I mean, listen to this dialogue. He says, now is the time for discipline, some lessons in obedience for the future baroness. That is straight up BDSM.
Christian Grey.
Yeah.
I had to say it. I couldn't keep it implied.
Yeah. And it is exactly that kind of bizarre shit.
And he punctuates each phrase with a stroke of the lash, which isn't distracting at all. And so we get back to frickin' Una being a bitch.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
Threats won't make me love you, 'tis not the way of the human heart. What can I for human heart? Such a soft spirit, this thing. Ugh.
It just goes on and on.
What is a man? A miserable pile of secrets? You and your porridge pot heart, and then she leaves.
Porridge pot heart is a new one.
And he has a line, I like Jack's line, you're hard enough to fathom a woman's mind. What chance has one with a fairy?
Yeah. Again, Jack's personality is better in the script.
Yes. And so they leave the caves, and then Thurgis and Og give Gump 2 gifts, like some golden thread and a silver key. Sadly, not H.P. Lovecraft's The Silver Key. And so they march off. And they march and they march and they march and they march.
And I think that's that's right. That's where they go to the bugs, which is again another random encounter.
Yes, they get to, there's like a narrowing in the rocks, and they say, Una, go fly ahead, and she gets her dumb ass caught in the spider web. And there's a giant spider. And then there's more bugs.
Yeah, giant beetle, I think.
A giant beetle starts fighting Jack, and then a couple of wasps show up.
Yeah.
So there's some more bugs too, I think. I think there's even more, and they try and get to the spider, but Una gets bitten first, and she goes into a coma.
And she gets wrapped up as well, like she's Frodo.
Yeah, she's Frodo.
And I think you said this before we filmed as well. After they kill all the bugs, it's very non-consequential. They rescue Una, and that's it. She's out of the film.
She never comes out of that coma.
No. She's just taken away, and that's it. Which is better, to be honest.
Yeah, there was a couple of wasps, but I don't think there was any more bugs here.
No.
Bugs, and more bugs. It's almost like that scene in King Kong, only not as...
But then, after that random encounter, they actually get to the castle, isn't it?
I know, but I have to say, this was the first time Jack had a chance to save somebody, he completely fucked it up.
Yeah.
But no, they have to get directions because they can't follow the road.
Oh, that's right.
And they find this random pig man.
Which I wouldn't be surprised inspired the pig guy in the film.
Yeah, probably. Only this is a good guy and not a bad guy.
Yeah.
But also, meanwhile, they also describe the Baron's castle as looking like some deformed and dying organism in silhouette.
Yeah. Kind of reminded me of anything like, Barad-dûr and Lord of the Rings.
And so he gets he gets word from the Raven that they're coming, and so he cooks something up in his alchemy lab, which is a weird bat frog thing, which becomes important.
Why a frog? Of all the creatures to mix a bat with, why is a frog a good idea?
Well, his name is French.
But yeah, tasty. But it's just such a weird choice. It's like, I don't get it.
Sorry, I've been playing Snake Eater, guys. It's stuck in my head. So yeah, they lead the big ass army of fairies. They get their directions from this pig guy whose name is Jimmy. Jimmy something. I gotta find his full name.
Squarefoot, isn't it?
Jimmy Squarefoot, yes.
Yeah.
And he apparently got lost, so he leads them to the castle. Scrolling.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah, we get another whipping scene.
Oh yes. And I think as well, where is it? Yeah, here you go. Where was that? Yeah.
Where?
He says things like, "You begin to sound more reasonable," and it's kind of implied that she's starting to like it.
Yeah, he says it's misspelled, but he says your moans seem almost pleasurable, my dear, developing a taste for the lash.
That's the one. It's like, that is so weird.
A simple course in etiquette, something your parents sadly overlooked. And I'm like, well, her dad did use her as bait, so he is kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we never get any word back on whether they got fixed or not.
No, that's never brought up.
He's like, I can keep a victim alive for weeks, months if I desire it. It's an art. They beg for death. I keep it just out of their reach. He strikes her with the pain remains constant. Then she finally says, don't, please, I'll do what you desire. He's like, sweet princess, you begin to sound most reasonable.
Yeah, it's creepy. Because, yeah, he is basically just torturing her into submission.
Yeah, she's suffering from a bit of the old Helsinki syndrome.
Yeah.
Named after Helsinki, Sweden.
You're going to have comments.
Yeah, I know I'm going to have comments, but watch Die Hard, you Philistines. You'll get the reference.
And he says really creepy things like, when you are ripe for my pleasure, I will enjoy the harvest. Like, Jesus.
Also, he's like, do as you wish with my body, you'll never possess my soul. Your soul? Why should I bother with such a paltry trifle? After all, Milhouse traded it for Pogs months ago.
Yeah. Well, I just can't really imagine the Tim Curry darkness saying this stuff, but it's a bit...
No, but he also gets really philosophical where he says, my dear princess, the human soul is a highly elusive commodity. I suggest you spend some hours before the glass, contemplate your intriguing reflection, and consider whether a creature as yourself could possibly possess something as fine and beautiful as a soul. So he's playing kind of psychological warfare with her.
Yeah, he's fucking with her, basically.
Because he's a wolf.
Yeah. So
they're camped out in the forest with the castle silhouetted against the sky.
Also, I love the fact that now, after all this shit, now Gump mentions that it's cold.
Put a shirt on, you bastard.
I know. He says, I've never felt so cold in all my born days. He sounds like he's from the West Country. He does keep referring to Jack as my lad.
West Country?
And, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. They keep talking.
This is where they say that the walls will be glued together with blood and tears. The wind in the battlement cries with pain. It's like, okay, we get it.
It's Masonburg.
Yeah, but the way they keep going on about it, it's like, okay, we get it. It's difficult to get in. It's a bit much.
And then the next morning, they get to look at the castle, and it's made from bones.
Yes.
Instead of just a tree.
Mm.
Battlements of hell. Yes, thank you, Jack.
Yeah.
They decide they need siege machinery.
So they just make it out of nothing, which is surprising.
They got the replicator off the Enterprise.
Yeah.
So they just make it together unto the breach, storming the bastions of darkness. Except he's not darkness.
And again, random Shakespearean reference there. Together unto the breach.
It was much better in the original. So the Baron's on the walls of the castle with some two fish-headed guys.
Yeah, and somehow he basically succeeds in fighting them off for the most part.
Yes, and what I just want to know, right,
is
that this is a dude who's like half wolf, half goat, and hangs out with a bunch of fish-headed guys. How did he get so chummy with the local aristocracy?
Yeah, it's weird how they just do his bidding, and because he doesn't really have any power until he gets the unicorn thing.
And even then, he doesn't do anything with it.
No, so it's, yeah, I can see why they cut a lot of this crap out.
And so they're on top of the wall, and then basically there's a bunch of dumb dialogue with the demons. And
oh, Christ, yeah.
He sends the friggin' the frog bats after them.
Yeah, and they're surprisingly effective despite being frog bat.
Well, they're made. I don't know. I didn't make them. Yeah, I mean, it could be worse. It could have sent a crocodile after them.
It's still more effective than a frog bat. It has the wings of a bat and the face of a frog. So basically, the most, less offensive parts of both animals.
As a tornado of utter evil. What calamity be this? So yeah, it basically takes them down for the count. And then they basically make a shield wall. And so the Baron is just like, haha, yes, I won.
For some reason. Literally.
He's like dropping like his fucking armor off in the hallway because he's so eager to bone.
he's bounding down the corridors, stripping off.
Down the fuck.
Christ.
And so outside, they figure, okay, let's use this siege machinery. We've wizarded up. And they go, we're going to put Screwball in the catapult. We're going to give him the golden thread.
Oh, can I just say, before we get to that, the bit of dialogue that accompanies that moment with the Baron is terrible. Because he says, to finish last evening's delightful work, and then a demon says, we come watch. Oh, it's so wrong.
Nay, this is a private affair. No audience welcome.
Glass.
Oh, and he sets the moat on fire.
Because, yeah, why not?
Doesn't do anything, but
No.
And so they're like, he's like, I bruise easily, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, this is intercut with the sex scene.
Quite the rapey sex scene.
Yeah, they just go right at it.
Yeah. Well, it implies, it does say, like, oh, she's willing now and all this stuff. It's just weird.
She's accepted her animal side.
It's tricky.
She's ginger.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they send Screwball up onto the walls, up over the wall. He climbs up onto the battlements. He gets a quick peek in through the window at the sex going on.
Yeah, as you do.
And I'm scrolling through this because it takes forever.
Yeah, it's mostly description as well. That's the problem.
Yeah, and just not much.
No.
And so Screwball, he also sees the horn in that room. And then he uses the golden thread to, he ties it to a gargoyle and then lowers himself to the ground.
Yeah.
So that golden thread really didn't do much of importance that a regular rope couldn't.
Pretty much.
And so they climb the top of the drawbridge, and then they cut the winch, and then the drawbridge is lowered, letting the fairy army in. And in the bedroom, they're like, I hear a great calamity. It's like, oh no, we're waiting.
Assume that.
Later, beloved, now I only wish to be with you. Pleasure is for those who seize it. Do you think those insipid, pale-skinned mortals will ever know such a... God, this is terrible romance dialogue.
It is really terrible dialogue.
Weakness is what's precisely my darling. Your animal strength, your primitive power has surfaced. You are what you desire.
I mean, some of it sounds like, the Darkness character, but other times it's too melodramatic and just bollocks.
Yeah, because Darkness had a huge boner, which he should have just rubbed one out and went, kill the unicorn.
Yeah. Actually stay on point.
And then the Baron bites her shoulder. Lily yips with animal delight.
Again,
Also, remember, she's 15.
Yeah. And again, what was it that one of the producers said?
Oh, she said, we can't let the bad guy fuck the princess.
I kind of agree with that sentiment.
And so, yeah, and then the door gets thrown open, and the Baron gets cock-blocked by Jack, and then the Baron can't handle the light.
Oh yeah, don't they actually do they actually do a massive setup with all the different mirrors?
That's in a minute, though. That doesn't happen.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and so he's like, yield, coeur de noir, or I grant no quarter. And then the Baron, runs up. He grabs the horn, and then he goes, protect me, beloved, I need your help. And so Lily attacks Jack, and then as she's distracting him, he gets away through a secret passage in the wall, and then Jack mortally wounds Lily.
But not really. She's not quite dead. In fact, she's getting better. Yeah. It's really not. It's nothing of any consequence. There's just a moment where he thinks he's killed her, then he hasn't, and it's
kind of funny that when she transforms back into human form, and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah. So
that's the second person you've completely failed to save.
Yeah.
And she's just a naked girl again, dying in her lover's arms. A naked 15-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it, Ridley. And so she dies, but not quite. And Jack goes, hey, Gump, I need your silver key so we can open this door. And then Gump's like, hey, let's go get some plates. They go to the kitchen, and they get all the reflective surfaces they can. And so it's like, we need the unicorn to be, or something. That's a little bit later. But no, Jack follows the Baron down into this underground chamber, and they fight. And then at the last minute, Gump and Screwball show up, and they do the mirror trick from the mummy. And hit the Baron with the light, and Jack's about to kill him, but then Screwball fucks up and blinds Jack with the light, and then the Baron gets away.
And that's when the horse is needed. The unicorn, rather.
Yeah, and then they get the unicorn, and Jack chases the Baron down into the depths, and they end up literally at the gates of hell.
Yeah, literally.
And then the Baron, and then they're fighting, and then the Baron's like, it's like, haha, now you'll know who I truly am. I serve Lord Satan. And then he turns into his final boss form, into a demon.
Yeah. With giant wings.
Yeah, with wings. So he becomes Destroyer.
Yeah. Which, let's be honest, the only thing that would make Darkness more badass would be giant bat wings.
And so they're fighting, and Jack's getting his ass kicked, and then the clouds part, and sun comes down from heaven and kills the Baron.
Yeah. It's a bit Deus Ex Machina.
A little. And then Jack picks up the horn, looks over at hell, and goes, shit, we ain't going that way.
Nope.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out the logistics of the passage to hell underneath the castle.
Yeah.
But then Jack rides up, and then they get Lily and Una, and they're both in separate beers, and they ride off.
Yep.
They put the horn back on the unicorn skull, which then fixes the curse.
But doesn't bring back the unicorn, disappointingly.
Well, actually, the curse was already fixed when he killed the Baron, because the world is back to normal already.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't make much sense.
But then, oh no, Lily's still in her coma, and so is Una, and so they figure out somehow that getting the ring out of the pond will fix her.
I still don't even know how that works in the film.
I don't know how that works here. I don't know how it works in the film. But no, he goes and gets the ring, and when he pops up from out from under the pond, everyone's gone.
Yeah.
And he fixes Lily with the ring, and she goes like, I just had the most amazing dream.
Yeah, and it's kind of implied that when he jumped into the river, that lake, that's when the dream started. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's so stupid. And they wander off, and they're like, you do see the unicorn and the foal watching, so it's assumed that it did all happen.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just sparing her all the BDSM.
People, yeah. Being mind-fucked and literally fucked.
50 Shades of Wolfman.
Yeah.
And so they run off, and he was like, yeah, I'll get our father to let us marry.
You might have to cut him down.
Yeah, he's an asshole. Oh, yeah, he's a tree now.
Yeah, he's also a tree.
It doesn't explain that part was fixed.
No. Was it fixed? Who knows?
And Una is, I guess, okay.
Yeah, but there's some weird bit where she's like in his ear, and he's like, he says, Lily says, what's the matter? He's saying, ouch, something's biting me, pinching me, and then he says, it's buzzing all around me, I can hear it like a fly trapped inside my ear, says its name is Una. So, is that implying he doesn't know? Is he forgotten? Or, it's a bit weird.
Maybe it was a dream.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're trying to imply there, because he doesn't know who Una is.
Maybe it's all implanted memories and he's a rep.
It's weird. But that's pretty much the end.
And then it ends. They just wander off, and she's like, oh, well, wear shitty clothing for you.
Yeah.
Oh, she has delicate seashell nostrils.
Oh,
that's...
I was going to say,
but
that's
no,
not a compliment.
They walk off into the sun, and then we get the last page, which says, early draft, ! Pull this page out.
Which they didn't. Why is that there?
I don't know.
It's weird.
So, yeah, that was Legend of Darkness.
Mm.
I think I like the film more.
Yeah, the film is definitely better.
Now, granted, I did enjoy reading this just because of how batshit it was.
Mm.
But, I mean, there's no racist dragon. There's no BDSM. There's no were-people sex.
There's no weird rape.
There's no unicorn breastfeeding.
Yeah.
I think the best version doesn't involve the unicorn sucking 15-year-old tit.
Exactly, yeah. I think we made the best of a bad job.
So I don't know how to sum that up.
Yeah.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
But I think, let's be honest, the reason why the film is so loved is because of Tim Curry. That is hands down the main reason why people...
And the visuals.
Yeah. But I still think that if Darkness wasn't as iconic as he was, it wouldn't have been successful.
Well, it wasn't actually successful at the time.
Well, it wouldn't have become the cult classic that it is.
No, it probably wouldn't have. It would have been like, oh, hey, here's Tom Cruise in a dress.
I think as well, Tim Curry won some kind of... He was either nominated or won the award for Best Performance in a Terrible Film, which I think is a bit unfair, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not a terrible movie. It's just not special.
Yeah. Something like that. I can't. I must have read that somewhere.
It was an interesting effort from Scott.
Yeah, well, it's certainly different to what he usually does.
And this guy's done bizarre. There was a bizarre sex thing in Angel Heart.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Right.
there's this long sex scene between Mickey Rourke and Lisa Bonet, I think it was.
Ooh, okay.
And there's a twist to it, which is just when you think about it.
Right. Let's not. And so we did.
Yeah, that's a good movie though.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, Legend of Darkness, not my favorite script mainly because it just felt like it went on forever.
Yeah, it did. It's far too long, and you can see why they trimmed it down significantly.
And I'm glad I read it just because it was batshit insane.
Yeah.
First 10 pages, unicorn sucking on 15-year-old tit.
That pretty much sums up the entire thing.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, the unicorn and the bad guy get more action than the hero does.
Which is very like Legend of Zelda.
That is true.
Mm.
Link, heck, I can read it at a time. Link doesn't even have time
Yeah, literally.
to get any action because Zelda's just like, I'm sending you back, bitch.
Yeah.
Though it is, he probably wouldn't have cared too much because, I mean, his freaking Kokiri girlfriend, he just chucked her gift away like it was nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going on the Legend of Zelda now, so.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess to sum up, I'm glad I read it.
I'd say so too.
It's kind of like John Borman's Lord of the Rings script, only less insane.
Mm. Yeah.
That was infinitely more readable as a result, because it was just like, what the fuck is going to happen next? But yeah, I'll say this: it was an interesting read, and it wasn't quite that good of a script.
Mm.
What's your last final word?
Say no to bestiality.
And to furries.
Yes.
Okay, I guess that'll be our sign out. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.